Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Keep It Real Courtney podcast. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the one thing that is preventing you from finding and fulfilling your calling. This is something that the Lord has been dealing with me on. He's dealt with me on this before. I don't typically think of myself as being a complainer, but there's a couple areas where I feel stuck, and I've in the past felt stuck and felt stagnant. And I realized that this complaining is really at the source of why I haven't been able to move past whatever it is that I'm going through. And it's something we can so easily slip into. And the reason why we slip so easily into it is because our flesh likes to be comfortable. Everybody wants to be comfortable, right? Nobody likes dealing with uncomfortable situations or just periods of time where you're going through a trial or something's not going the way you want it to go. Nobody likes that. But what I have realized is that when we fail to just accept the season for what it is and embrace it and learn from it and grow from it, we instead complain, and then we end up sabotaging our calling. And we sabotage that lesson we were supposed to learn during that season that would have helped us in the next season that we're going into. And so this is like I said, I never thought of myself as like a complainer, but I think the way you can determine if you're complaining about something or not is, are you having the same conversations about the same thing over and over and over again? Like, if you're having the same conversation about something over and over, then the chances are you're probably complaining about it. And you shouldn't be talking about it. You should either be doing something about it or sucking it up and plowing through it. And I say that because, there are certain things that we go through that it doesn't seem like there's any possibility, any way of getting out of it. Like, we're just stuck. It feels like we're stuck in this situation. There's no good option for getting out of it. And we're really just waiting on God or waiting on a person or waiting on ourselves, whatever it is. We're waiting on something to happen. And so many times we are just like the Israelites when they were in the desert and they were supposed to be embracing this season of, they just got freed from slavery and from bondage and finally are receiving this promised land that God has for them. But most of them didn't get to it because they complained. It was just because they complained. They couldn't just embrace the season for what it is. And I want to say this, okay? When Jesus died, and when he was on his way to the cross, we see him the night before he was arrested, talking to the Father, saying, if there's any way that this can be done any other way, God, let it be done. And then he ends it with, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. And he submits and completely submits and surrenders himself to the calling that God has for his life. And so many of us as Christians want to say we've submitted and surrendered, but we're not sold out to the point where we make a decision and we never discuss it again. We never turn back on it. We never regret it. We never complain about it. From that moment when Jesus made that decision, he took on the weight of his calling. And, I believe that if you really look at it and the way Jesus was, and the fact that he didn't defend himself, he didn't try to protect his innocence, he didn't try to fight back when they were doing all of these things to him. I believe that part of the reason why was because he was so scared of messing up the calling that God had for his life and his sacrifice. He was so scared of ruining that he was willing to shut his mouth. Doesn't mean it was easy. It doesn't mean that his cross was not heavy. In fact, he needed help carrying his cross. Some of us need help during our trials in different areas from other people. We need help, but we can ask for help without complaining. We can We can ask for someone to come alongside us and carry our cross with us without complaining about the situation or without, yeah, that's all I'll say about that. We need to be like Jesus in that he just accepted what was ahead of him. He shut his mouth and he moved on. And when it got heavy, someone came alongside him and helped him carry that cross. But he did not want to mess up that calling, because on the other side of his obedience, on the other side of his sacrifice, on the other side of the greatest and hardest and most tumultuous journey of his life, there was all of the human race waiting for his success. Satan didn't know, but he was about to be defeated. And Jesus, recognizing that, the Bible says that if Satan would have known what he was doing, he never would have crucified Jesus. Some of the things you guys are going through, Satan hasn't figured out that when you get to the other side of it, you're going to have a massive breakthrough that's going to impact more people than you realize. And not only do you not realize it, but the enemy does not realize it. And if you become yielded to the flesh and you start running your mouth and complaining and just continuing to be miserable in the situation, then you're not going to fulfill the mission, and you're not going to help the people that are waiting for you to fulfill this. You don't even know who they are. They could be your kids. It could be your spouse. It could be your family. It could be the nations. I don't know who it is. But the point is that if you are not like Jesus and you don't shut your mouth and accept the weight of your calling, then you could be sabotaging yourself. So I just want to ask you, what if we approached our trials the same way that Jesus approached his trial on the cross? What if we approached our struggles with a holy fear that if for some reason we weren't to accomplish this mission, that we would not get to the people who are waiting for us to fulfill this assignment so that they can be rescued, so that they can be delivered? Are we really sold out to God to the point where we're willing to sacrifice our own comfort? Because we love to be comfortable. We love to be comfortable. But then at the same time, we're saying, God, use me, use me. And he's like, I can't use you because even this little thing that you got going on, you won't shut up about it. And that's my way of saying it, not his. I'm sure he'd probably say it a lot nicer than I would say it. But it's the reality. This is the reality of the situation. You're like, God, I want to do more. I want to do more for you. And he's like, but you're not even doing the little things that I have for you, the minor discomforts. You're not even doing those well because you're just complaining about them the whole time. And you keep talking about it. It's kind of like my husband, our baby is 16 months old now, and for the longest time he wasn't sleeping through the night, and so we would talk, and we would be talking about his sleep and our sleep and how tired we were. And then finally one day I was like, this is a boring conversation. I don't want to talk about sleep anymore. Because I realized, why are we going to keep talking about this? It's just a problem. Let's either come up with a solution for his sleep, suck it up and do it, or let's just stop talking about it. But to continue dwelling on it and complaining about it, it was just a boring conversation. I felt like a broken record. And so we did. And actually, while I was just gone on my last trip, my husband got him sleeping through the night. So praise the Lord. We're actually sleeping again, which is a game changer when you haven't slept in over a year. But these are the little things, these are the little things. And I think sometimes we get so ruined in these little things that we're complaining about that we can't do the bigger things. And God's called us to big things, but he starts with the smaller things. And if we're not really becoming excellent at doing the little things that he's given us and the little assignments that he's put in place and the minor discomforts that we deal with in trials, if we aren't doing those well, then how are we going to do a big assignment well? We're not. We're just not. And how is it that we just don't learn from what the Bible teaches us? We don't learn from the Israelites. We don't learn that they didn't inherit the promised land. And, some people are like, God, why are you using this person? Why are you using that person? And it's because we aren't yielded to the discomfort. We have to completely yield ourselves to always being uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is. It's just like when you're working out, like God's given you this assignment and it might be a little bit heavy, but if you're not going to lift it and lift it and lift it and keep doing it until it becomes light, then you can't move on to the heavier weights. You're in this situation and oh, that's heavy. I don't want to do this. Oh, this is so miserable. Oh, this is so hard. Oh, I don't want to, and just keep talking about it. And instead of just, okay, you know what? I'm just going to lift this weight. And then when this so much, I'm going to do it so much. I'm going to practice so much that it's not even going to be uncomfortable anymore. And I'm going to need something new. And then that's when God can move you on to the next thing. And I say this because this is not something that I necessarily thought I dealt with, but I realized about some of the littler things, I tend to just be so complaining about them. I don't want to be like that. So I know that if I'm dealing with this, chances are other people are dealing with this too. I hope this helps you guys on your journey, and I hope this helps you get to that next place in your life so that you can find and fulfill the call that God has for your life.